How's it going, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Sideline. I'm Brooke 𝗏𝗀𝗟. That's my girl, Dani K, coming off her birthday week. A lot of celebrating. I saw that you were reunited, Dani, with some of your tennis folks at Indian Wells. How was that?
It was so fun. You know, I've never been to that tournament before, like I mentioned on this a podcast a couple weeks ago. So to be able to drive just a quick hour, 45 minutes down to Palm Springs, get to see everybody earlier than I typically would. It was kind of fun to just go from a social aspect and not be working. It was really fun. Got to get a couple dinners in, went to the outlet mall down there. They have a fantastic outlet mall on the way to Palm Springs. I'm talking Saint Laurent, 𝗬𝗎. I didn't go crazy, but I did have fun like shopping. It was fun.
Oh, okay. Well, I need to make a move. The Indian Wells is on my bucket list. And so I'm glad that you were able to experience that, though, because I know it's like sometimes it takes away from when you work a certain sport, it takes away the joy of it. So I'm glad that you were able to actually create that separation and just have fun with your friends.
Yeah, it was fun to like see it from a fan's perspective because I wasn't a tennis fan prior to working in tennis. I've grown to be a tennis fan. So it was really fun to go to a tournament with no job requirements and just walk around, enjoy, get the champagne, wear the cute outfits that are not necessarily like camera ready type outfits, just more chill. It was really, really fun. Had a great time, brought my mom with me. It was awesome.
Cute. Well, we're going to get to Indian Wells later because, you know, celebrities love tennis. And so there were some celebrity sightings that we will get to. But first, we are going to start with a little segment here on Sideline called Front and Center, where we're just kind of going through some of the biggest sports headlines that are front and center right now. And I mean, Dani, you're getting on social media and everything is just regarding free agency. There were moves left and right. We're going to dive deep into some of those, but I think we want to give a shout out to the Bears here making national attention for good reasons this time. The biggest concern surrounding this team was last season was they had nobody in the trenches on both sides of the ball. Caleb Williams was getting sacked left and right. So Ben Johnson, I would imagine that when he was coming over to be the head coach, he was like, hey, we got to beef up the offensive and defensive line. Ryan Poles in this front office, they listened. They added some huge names.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's great for Chicago because obviously that was a gaping issue, both on the defensive line and on the offensive line. So Windy City is like trenches city right now, but it's been really interesting because I don't put too much stock into what happens in the offseason in the NFL because I just it's hard to keep track of sometimes the little bit of a breather that you get from the NFL, if any. It's hard to stay like glued to it, but it isn't a secret that that's where Chicago was really struggling. So it's nice to see some of these mock drafts that I've read have changed quite a bit now that they've added those pieces. So now it's going to be kind of fun to see like where they put their attention come draft time.
Yeah, no, for sure. And hopefully it'll make a difference because, but Chicago fans, they were excited when they got the news yesterday. It was like left and right. They were just shocked because, you know, this is an organization that's notoriously known for not spending money, and they had all the money to spend this offseason that people were curious what they were going to do with it. And so it beats up the trenches there, and let's see if it'll make a difference for Caleb Williams and this offense and defense. But speaking of Chicago, a name that is very familiar with Bears fans is Justin Fields. He is now with the Jets. He signed a 2-year, $40 million deal, $30 million guaranteed. And why this is a big deal is because, you know, Justin Fields, he needed a fresh start. This is a guy that was on a roll at Ohio State, made a name for himself, known for his arm, his athleticism. And, you know, he was drafted by the Bears, and it just didn't really work. You know, there were coaching changes. It was just the wrong system. Things weren't gelling. They didn't give him the right pieces around him. And so they parted ways. He went to Pittsburgh, and he was able to learn under a head coach in Mike Tomlin, who is known for, you know, developing guys, and his reputation precedes himself. And then he can learn under Russell Wilson. He had glimpses last season, and then now he's getting this opportunity with the Jets. And I think I speak for all of Bears fans that I think we wish him well, and we hope to see him succeed, because I don't think he really had the opportunity to really prove himself in Chicago.
No, and he had to deal with coaching changes, a bad offensive line. It was a tough situation for him in Chicago, but my goodness, was it fun when he finally had some room and could use his legs. His playmaking ability is unbelievable. So the reason this is like huge news, like if you're sitting there at a bar and you're like, why is this important? It's because Aaron Rodgers is no longer with the Jets. And so that means that now they're putting some stock into Justin Fields. There is another quarterback there named Tyrod Taylor, who's been around for a very long time, a journeyman quarterback. I believe he's probably my age, 33, 34 at this point, which is kind of old. Not really, but in athlete years it is. I imagine that they're going to say there's going to be some sort of competition for starting quarterback, but I would assume Justin Fields has the edge there. But the cool part about going to the Jets for Justin Fields is he actually gets to be paired up again with a former Ohio State teammate and Garrett Wilson. And when he played with Garrett Wilson at Ohio State, even with that like pandemic shortened season, he had, I actually looked this up, so I was curious. Wilson caught 43 passes for 723 yards and 6 touchdowns in just 8 games with Justin Fields as his starter. So if they can translate any of that over to the Jets, it's going to be very, very exciting.
And I think Justin, it's a new player now. I think he's back to his old self. We saw glimpses of that in Pittsburgh when he was able to start when Russell was out and with injuries. And so I think he has his confidence back. And I think having that comfort with Garrett Wilson, but man, the Jets, the last 2 years have just been a complete nightmare for them. Yeah. This was a team when they got Aaron Rodgers. I mean, they had to bend over backwards to get this guy. They had weapons on both sides of the ball. They were projected to possibly go to the Super Bowl, win the Super Bowl. And then it has just been a downward spiral for them, firing their coach and then nothing to show for it. So they're just back, just, hoping they can create some sort of winning atmosphere there in New York.
And it's interesting, right? Because Justin Fields is like completely different than Aaron Rodgers, obviously, because Aaron Rodgers is a Hall of Fame quarterback and Justin Fields has yet to prove that. But Justin Fields is so good at his mobility. And that's something the Jets in their history of quarterbacks really haven't had. The closest that comes to mind is like Geno Smith. But I think even Justin Fields is probably better than Geno Smith on the run. So it's going to be really interesting because the Jets also have a brand new offensive coordinator. And the offensive coordinator that they have just came from Detroit, where he was with Jared Goff. Jared Goff and Justin Fields, 2 very different quarterbacks, folks. Jared Goff wants to stay in the pocket, not really a mover whatsoever. So I am kind of curious to see what this new offensive coordinator for the Jets does in his first time having this type of role, and has a completely different quarterback than what he had to get him this job. So I think that will be very interesting to see, but I'm excited to see what Justin Fields can do because when he gets moving and has open space, it's really fun.
Do you think they're better off without Aaron Rodgers?
It's so tough to say that because Aaron Rodgers obviously is a Hall of Famer. I think that they might be better off just because I think he can be a bit of a distraction. And I think ultimately that's the problem. If he's not buying in with what the head coach is buying into, he's going to be a distraction to that. He's started to really accept that he's got a different opinion than other people. He's got a different way of going about things. And he's a little bit more vocal with that now. Now you have him on the Pat McAfee show every single week. And he's, spilling secrets and behind the scenes of an organization that's in the middle of a rebuild. I don't know if that's really helpful for a team in that scenario. So I don't think anyone will be a better option than Aaron Rodgers just from a talent standpoint, but it might be a better fit just because of less distractions.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think where there's smoke, there's fire. And for some reason, there's always this like cloud that follows Aaron Rodgers. There's just drama that's always around him. And so I think, the Jets, they hired a new head coach, new coaching staff, on a new quarterback and, just trying to move forward. So Justin Fields, he moves on from Pittsburgh, but we have a new guy coming in to Pittsburgh to play with the Steelers, and that's DK Metcalf. He signed with the Steelers. He's on a 5-year, $150 million deal. He's reunited with his former quarterback, Russell Wilson. And why this is huge is because this duo was at one point arguably one of the best duos in the NFL. They had a strong connection in Seattle, and they now have a chance to just reignite that chemistry here on the Steelers here. And, Metcalf, he's such a stud. And not many people, I feel like the last few seasons have really seen him because not to discredit Geno Smith, but he didn't have that same sort of chemistry, I feel like, that he built with Russell Wilson, but he's known for his side. He's known for his speed. So I'm excited just to see if they can repeat that success. Do you think they'll be able to, Dani?
Well, there's a couple things that I want to talk about here with DK Metcalf. To start with answering your question, yes, I do think that they could probably find some of that same success, just because in addition to DK Metcalf, the Steelers also have George Pickens. So between the two of them, when it comes to stretching the field, I don't know many duos that will be able to do that while they have also both caught passes from their supposed starting quarterback. So Metcalf has experience with Russell Wilson. George Pickens has experience with Russell Wilson. If they can improve their pass protection and all of that, then yeah, they could have something really brewing there in Pittsburgh for sure. The other thing I wanted to point out is DK Metcalf, when I covered the Seattle Seahawks, so I was in that locker room with him at the time that Russell Wilson was the quarterback. This guy is just an absolute animal. Like when you look at him, he's like built completely different. Like it's hard. Like, yes, we understand, right? Football players, they're in shape. Football players look like athletes. Like you can tell who's got muscles and stuff. No. I'm just saying, like, you see this guy, he's massive and he's thick and strong. And anytime you want to pull up like a pre-game warm-up of DK Metcalf, he's walking around with his shirt off. This guy's a specimen. It's crazy. And his athletic ability and speed and what he's able to do with a body like that. I mean, the sky's the limit. So it's unfortunate because I'm got Pacific Northwest ties. I would probably consider myself a Seahawks fan. So it's a bummer, I think, that we don't get to have him or Tyler Lockett, but the writing was on the wall. DK Metcalf definitely seemed like he was frustrated last year and definitely made that known quite a bit. But there has been some interesting tea. You ready for some tea, Brooke, that I read?
Yeah, you know I love the tea. I'm here for the tea.
In Seattle, one of the longtime Seahawks reporters, radio reporter, is saying that he's hearing throughout the building that it's actually Russell Wilson's fault that DK Metcalf was feeling the way that he was feeling.
So
that he's like Russell Wilson, even though he's gone, is poisoning the locker room.
So it's interesting you say this because now I'm recalling like there are rumblings of Russell Wilson and a reputation that he built for himself within the Seahawks locker room. There's a reason why they didn't do a tribute video when he came back to Seattle. And yeah, that's really interesting that you're bringing that up because there have been rumblings for a while. So what you're saying that he could maybe is not excited about being reunited with him in Seattle?
I think it wasn't necessarily that he's not excited. I think that Russell Wilson's gonna be thrilled that he has DK Metcalf there. I'm saying that I think Russell Wilson was putting in DK Metcalf's head prior to him even expressing that he wanted to leave, that he should go somewhere where he can get paid. I don't think Russell Wilson ever really thought that it was going to be with him in Pittsburgh. I think that was just like an outlandish thought. So I'm not going to put that on Russell Wilson. But from what this reporter is saying is that in the building, the rumblings are that Russell Wilson is being a poison, even though he's not even there anymore. He's just like texting the players on the side, like, you're better than this. Get out of there.
Oh my gosh. You're like, come on. Like,
very interesting.
Russell, you are gone. You are away. But okay, this makes sense because I feel like they do have some sort of relationship off the field, and teammates, they like to hang out. And I did see that Ciara and Russell obviously are together, and they set up DK Metcalf and his girlfriend ���Normani, who was in the band. Yeah, she was. What was she in the band with 𝗵liche 𝗵𝗶𝗹? And they sang,
"You're my pop culture girly."
Work.
Oh,
that song.
I like that song.
What is their band name? Anyways, it's not important. She's off on her own doing her own thing. She's a big star now. But yeah, they set them up. And so, you'd imagine that they're happy they can go back on double dates now.
Fifth Harmony is what it's called. I just did a little look at it.
Thank you. That was going to bother me. I'm like, what freaking band is this? I used to listen to them all the time. So yeah, so you'd imagine that they maybe can go on some double dates in Pittsburgh.
Oh, cool. I want to see the content from that.
Right?
I will tell you, I ran into Ciara quite a couple times I don't know her personally. I've never spoken to her in my life, but we were in the same elevator to get up to the press box, her to the suites, me to the press box. She's stunning.
No, I can only imagine.
Absolutely flawless, stunning.
I can only imagine the aura she has around her when she walks into a room. From her outfits, the swag that she has. I mean, I would be like, I'm not worthy to be in your presence.
Very pretty.
She's stunning.
And very nostalgic for me because I know she's got new music, but her old stuff slaps. I love it. 1-2 Step. I mean, my goodness.
Don't tempt me. Don't tempt me with some 1-2 step there. Okay, well, talking about like, celebrity other halves here. Josh Allen, he just got engaged to Hailey Steinfeld, and talk about somebody I'm obsessed with. I'm obsessed with Hailey Steinfeld. But this has been such a big year for him because he just signed a huge deal. Came to an agreement with a record-setting 6-year, $330 million contract with the Bills. That includes $250 million guaranteed, the largest guaranteed ever to an NFL player. This is, like I said, this has been the year of Josh Allen, where he gets engaged, he wins MVP, and then he gets his bag.
He
The only thing
also
he doesn't have is a Super Bowl, unfortunately.
Okay, he doesn't have a Super Bowl, but also in the last 2 weeks, he signed a deal with Skydance Sports so that he could create unscripted and scripted content. So we may see quite a bit out of
Interesting.
Josh Allen. It's been a very busy time for him recently.
Wait, give me more insight on Skydance Sports. So scripted and unscripted content.
I don't know too much about them. That's just something else that I read, but I would imagine it's something similar to an Uninterrupted, how LeBron James does a lot of things with them. From my understanding, he now has a deal with them as well to give some more behind the scenes look at, I imagine, his life. And hopefully we can all cross our fingers here on Sideline, peek into Hailey Steinfeld's life with him.
Honestly, let's be serious. Why do we care about Hailey Steinfeld? Okay, because I've been doing this for a while, and I don't want Swifties to come after me, but I think Hailey Steinfeld should be the new queen of the NFL.
It's possible, especially, I mean, Brooke, we still don't know. Is Travis Kelce coming back? Is he not coming back? What's happening
don't
here?
know.
So they may be the it couple, even if they aren't already. I mean, I believe that there's probably quite a few people that are on your side with that. I'm certainly captivated by their story for sure. And now he's got all this money in his pocket. Granted, it's really interesting. And the reason why this is such a big deal is because he still had 4 years left on his contract when they signed him. And so that confused me a little bit. I wanted to dig into why they would make that decision. Obviously, he had such a good year and you want to reward your quarterback with a big contract, but I wanted to know from the business standpoint, like how that makes sense. And it sounds like because they signed him now versus later when his contract is actually up, they probably saved themselves some money. So although they're paying him like a crap ton of money, the largest guarantee ever to an NFL player, they would have had to pay him even more if they waited until his contract was up, i.e. examples like what happened with Dak Prescott and the Cowboys, what happened with Jamar Chase, even though he's not a quarterback, but with the Bengals, they had to pay him when they waited out his contract. So from my understanding, that's what happened.
Well, and you take a look at the quarterback market, and it's like, it doesn't even matter, not even based on skill set. It's just like, if you're the next quarterback that's up for a contract, you automatically are getting paid, because there were some quarterbacks in the most recent deals, and I'm like, this guy deserves to be paid that much? Like, he's not. So anyways, I think they did. But I think that Josh Allen has proven that he works his butt off. I mean, I hear nothing but great things about him as a leader, as a teammate, what he's been able to do for Buffalo and just giving back to the community. It's like, if you're an owner, you want to give that guy like anything he wants. He's just been a great representation of the organization. But no, I mean, I'm excited to see Hailey Steinfeld at more games. Personally, that's all I care about. Okay. Sorry. Jake just walked through the kitchen here, and I'm just, hello? Okay. He just walked through the kitchen. He was trying to be very sneaky, so he was distracting me for a second. All right. Well, let's get to your wheelhouse, Dani. And you know what I'm talking about. It is college hoops here. And it is Selection Sunday. It's coming up. It's championship week. Why is this the biggest week of the year in your eyes?
It's the most fun week ever, Brooke, in my opinion, because this is where the entire season lives and dies, especially for some of these smaller conferences. But this is the championship week. So all the conferences have their, all of their teams show up in one place. Some schools play them at the actual schools, but for the majority, they all go to one location, play each other tournament style. And if you win, you're automatically get the bid into the NCAA tournament come Selection Sunday, which is so fun to watch. Now, there's a reason that that's really exciting this week, and that's because of one bid conferences. So I know we wanted to go over some of these terms, right? So that everybody's ready for March Madness.
Yes, because we need to rely on you to give us the terminology and just to explain, because it can get a little confusing with all the, everything going on. So we need you to break it down for us and what people need to know. So what do you mean by a one bid conference? I know you explained a little bit. You actually played in one.
I did. So I played in the America East Conference. Stony Brook is now in the CAA, but that's
Mhm.
typically a one bid conference as well. It basically means you have to win your conference tournament if you want to go to the NCAA tournament. So it doesn't matter if you go into your conference tournament as the number one team in your conference. If you lose, you don't make the NCAA tournament. So like it makes these conference championships so cutthroat. You could see like a 7 seed come in, have a horrible year, and then just catch some sort of that March magic and beat the 1 seed. And now all of a sudden they're going to the big dance as an automatic bid. That's wild for some of these teams. And yes, it's kind of sad for some of these top teams that played well all year. But if you're in this one bid conference, you lose in the championships, you lose.
When watching these games, does it bring back so many memories?
Well, we sucked. So we were never really going to have a chance to do that, to be honest with you. In fact, we were so
You're like,
bad
"That
all
could've been
year
us."
long. Yeah, no, we were so bad all year long that by the time the conference tournament came around, we were like, I guess let's just prove everybody wrong because we are a one bid conference. Heck, we just got to win like 3 games in a row and we can go dancing. So let's focus more than we ever have before, It didn't happen for me, but man, it sure almost is like you get to press the restart button on your season. So I'm just
Yeah,
gonna give a shout out to a couple teams and so I can give a little bit of a like
give them some
example
love.
of it. Earlier today, we're recording this on a Tuesday. I watched Oregon State, who's a new member of the 𝗻●CC. This is women's basketball. They were a 4 seed. Yesterday, they upset Gonzaga, who was the top seed. And today they upset the 2 seed in Portland to go to the
Wow.
NCAA tournament. So now the 1, 2, and 3 seeds of the 𝗻●CC tournament are not making the NCAA tournament, but Oregon State is. Crazy.
Dani, that's insane.
It's crazy. It's so
You
fun to
actually
watch. It makes it so exciting. And these games are happening at like 1 p.m. in the middle of the afternoon. So like if you're at work, you're like constantly checking your phone. Every
or
time
at a
you glance
baseball
at the
game.
TV,
Just
you're at a
watching.
baseball game, you're glancing up at the scores because games are happening all day long. It's very exciting. There's schools like High Point. High Point is in the Big South Conference, a one bid conference. Their men's
Mhm.
and women's team are going. Men's team for the first time in their school's history. Southern Illinois University, Edwardsville, shout out Illinois, in the Ohio Valley Conference. They were the 2
Southern
seed.
Illinois?
Southern
In
Illinois
the
University, Edwardsville. Yeah,
Okay.
SIUE. They are headed
Shout out to
to
them.
the
Okay.
NCAA tournament. One more I'm going to give a shout out to. This is for the men's side. Wofford out of the Southern
I did
Conference.
see that.
They were the
That was
6th
insane.
seed. 6th seed. And they're going to the dance. That's crazy. So this is why this time of year is so fun. It's also, of course, very heartbreaking for those teams that played well all year round. And now they're all of a sudden losing in the conference championship and they don't get to go dancing. But that's what makes these one bid conferences so enticing.
Yeah, and every game matters here. All right, well, let's continue with the terminology. So you explained the one big conference. What does it mean when people say teams are, quote, on the bubble?
So on the bubble, teams tend to be teams in the bigger conferences that have more than one bid typically. So yes, if you win your conference tournament, you get the auto bid, but then after that you get what's called an at-large bid, and that typically goes to the bigger teams, the ones you see in there every single year that have great records. Teams that are on the bubble are teams that are right there on if they would get that at-large bid or not. Now, a lot of analysts break this down, but the easiest way I can do this is there's games when a schedule comes out, every game is placed in a quad 1, quad 2, quad 3, quad 4 in terms of how difficult that game is.
Mm.
So for a team like, here's one, North Carolina. We've always heard about North Carolina men's basketball, right? It's a huge deal. They're considered right now an on the bubble team because they are 1-11. They've lost 11 quad 1 games. So even though they have 20 wins this season, they've lost 11 of the 12 quad one games, meaning when they play the best of the best, they're losing. So
Right.
will they make the NCAA tournament? Probably not. But that's what they mean by on the bubble.
Got it. Okay. Well, every matchup, yeah, and strength of schedule, that matters, and strength of their wins, that plays a huge part. Okay. So what determines if a team makes it into the NCAA tournament or not?
This one's a little dicey because there's not exactly a complete set of qualifications necessarily, but there's a 12-member committee. So you'll hear, if you're watching Selection Sunday, you're going to hear them talk about the committee a lot. It's 12 members. And these people are responsible for selecting, seeding, and bracketing the entire field for the NCAA tournament. They're usually school and conference administrators that are nominated by their conference, and they serve a 5-year term. So they've been on there for a while. You can't vote for your own school. So I should throw that out there. But mostly they look at what's called the net, which is obviously based on games and the results, but they also factor in like where that game was played. Like if you had a quad one loss, but you were on the road, that probably would mean a little less than if you had a quad one win and you were on the road. Like that'd be more interesting because that's a hard environment to win at. So that's how they weigh it. It's a tough decision making, and that's where those on the bubble teams get argued quite a bit in those rooms. I would love to be a fly on the wall in one of those rooms to decide, but that's basically what it comes down to, because there's 37 teams that are not automatically qualified for the tournament every year, and it's up to the committee to decide who those 37 teams should be.
And the last one here, and this is, I think, what even if you're not a huge fan of college basketball, you still fill one of these out, and that is the bracket. But why do people get so hyped about the bracket seating?
Because there are some really talented teams in these smaller conferences. And in some of these bigger conferences, the third or fourth best team still might be a really scary team to play against. So if you're a 1, 2, or 3 seed, mostly a 2 or 3 seed, and you're going up against a team that's seeded, if you're up against a team that's seeded 12 or even 8,
Yeah.
those teams are still really good. So
Well, if the upsets, these Cinderella stories.
the Cinderella stories, that's where they happen, because all it takes is one win. You just have to win one game. So watching where the seeding comes into play, a lot of times it's fun to pay attention to what section of the bracket they're in, because maybe that team that's a lower seed is actually playing 2 hours from where their school's located. So that means they can get a whole line of school buses to go and cheer and make it a home game atmosphere. That's something to take into consideration when you look at the bracket seating. So it's something to pay attention to on Selection Sunday, where everybody ends up. It's just the best time of the year.
I can tell you're like a kid on Christmas morning, just talking about it, the way you light up. And
love it.
I'm excited to, and I'm glad that you're giving us insight and terminology, because it can get confusing with just the way that the brackets turn out. And so I know I'm going to be filling out my bracket, although it was completely busted last year. But
Okay, that's what makes it fun.
Yes, exactly. You got to give me tips, and you got to give all of our listeners tips and tricks, on what goes into making a really good bracket. I always do one like with Auburn. I always do one that's like has Auburn going all the way, because I feel like I wouldn't be like a loyal fan. And then I'm like, okay, well, let's get to the real bracket, because Auburn always knows how to let me down. So I'm like, all right, I'll get to it.
You know what? I actually think that's a great strategy. I always make 2. I make a gut bracket, and I make one once I've analyzed things a little bit further. So the one that's my gut bracket, I do like right immediately, and it's so much fun. And then I go and actually look some of these teams up and some of the stats and things like that, and give a little bit better thought process. It's fun to compare the two, but make sure you look at our social media, because we're going to put that on there after Selection Sunday happens.
Yes, exactly. All right. Well, let's keep it in college hoops here, because we want to give some of the women some love, because women's college hoops has been huge this past week. And starting with Hailey Van Lith, we got to talk about her, because after an impressive performance, she helped lead TCU to their first Big 12 championship, and she was also named AP Poll National Player of the Week here. And this is a player that's had a lot of criticism throughout her entire career. Dani, we've talked about her on other shows here, but just from the way that she plays, she has this intensity about her. But she was on an incredible run in Louisville, back two Elite Eight appearances, a Final Four appearance. She then went to LSU, and a lot of people called her a super team chaser because she was trying. This was right after they won the national title here, and she kind of got lost in the sauce there. And she was facing a lot of criticism, and a lot of people were like, all right, go on to the WNBA, but she decided to come back, and look at it, it's paying off at TCU. So, I mean, do you think that she rewrote the narrative on her career in college?
Yeah, I will say that I was probably one of those people that when she decided to leave Louisville to LSU, now that was last year when Angel Reese was on the team and they had that stacked team. You were right,
Yeah.
the chasing the super team mentality. I didn't love that because look, the whole beauty of college basketball is the building of different programs and playing them against other big programs and the upsets, and anything can happen on any given day. That's what makes college basketball so much fun. So I was one of those people that was probably a little frustrated when I initially saw her transfer to LSU. Now, when she made the decision to keep playing and not go to the WNBA and go to TCU for her 5th year, I didn't understand why that got so much backlash. Yes, she left LSU, a team she was playing for, and she may have gotten lost in the sauce, as you put it. I like that terminology, meaning she just didn't find her role on that team. She played horrendous defense against Caitlin
Mhm.
Clark. And that was very, very obvious to me and everyone else when Caitlin Clark scored 41 points in the NCAA
Yeah.
tournament against LSU. Hailey Van Lith was assigned to guard her with 41 points. As you can tell, she didn't do a great job of that. So I didn't take this as I sucked at LSU or LSU didn't make me happy, I want to transfer. I took it as like fresh new start. It didn't work out there. 5th year. That's always been the rule with college basketball. If you were a grad transfer, you could play right away. So
Hmm.
the fact that you get this 5th year now as a college student, when you can get NIL money, we keep talking about it, but it's such a big part of the sports landscape right now. So she gets to go to a new school. She still gets to get paid probably even more than if she went to the WNBA. And she gets to win with a whole new program. TCU hasn't won a conference championship since like 2005. This is her first
Yeah.
Big 12 conference championship. So that's fun. She gets to etch her name into the history books. I love her swagger. I think she is changing the narrative because I think there's going to be a whole lot more players that decide to take their 5th year.
Yeah, well, that was going to be my next question, because she was very outspoken about it after, and she kind of addressed the haters, right? She was like, a lot of you guys criticize me, but you're going to start seeing a lot more of this. But, going back, I think she thrives when she's on a team where she is that girl. She was she was competing against Angel Reese and, fighting over, touches and then playing for Kim Mulkey. This was a team that kind of thrived off that villain persona. Like LSU, they were everybody loved to hate them in a sense, but I just don't think that was a good fit for her. And I think going back to TCU, she was really able to shine. But what do you think this did for her WNBA stock, Dani? Do you think
Oh,
that people are going to be paying a lot more attention? Because last year, she was not going to be on anybody's radar with the way she was
yeah.
playing at LSU.
It's a whole nother way to look at it, Brooke. Honestly, that's really, really smart. Now she's also completely changed her scouting report and basically her draft report for what teams may want at the next level. Because if you watch some of these games that they played in TCU in this conference tournament, she was getting all the attention. They were doubling her every single ball screen. They were face guarding her. She talked about this after the game too. When she's off the ball, there were defenders in her face, even when she
Mm,
didn't have the ball, because they
yeah.
wanted to make sure she didn't get the ball.
Yeah.
Like they just were like, get the ball out of her hands. So that shows that she's obviously so critical to that TCU team, but B, other people understand how good she is. But C, this is the part that I think is going to make her an even better player at the next level, is that she made the passes and had the patience to when it was time to get her shots off in the second half, she did it. So
Yeah.
that's a mature player. That's a player that's played a lot in college. That's a player that's played under some really good coaching. But I
That's
do think it's going to
unselfish.
help her at the next level. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think we're all excited for her, and she's had quite the journey, but I think it is time for her to go. to the W. I think that time is now.
Yeah.
So we're excited to see what she does. Let's get to, South Carolina, because Dawn Staley and the Gamecocks, they are once again SEC champs, bringing her total to 8. Since taking over as head coach in 2008, she's led them to 3 national titles, 5 Final Four appearances, and 7 30-win seasons. Now, this is funny, Dani, because Dawn Staley, she said that everyone has South Carolina fatigue because everybody is sick of them winning. Do you have South Carolina fatigue?
No, I think because I've just been such a women's college basketball fan for so long that to me, South Carolina is still kind of new on the scene. Like for the longest time, it was UConn and Tennessee, and now it's all South Carolina. So I think right now people are getting South Carolina fatigue, especially all these new eyeballs to women's college basketball. I'm probably a bit of an outlier because I remember the UConn dominance days. I remember the Tennessee dominance days. So this just tends to happen in women's college basketball. There tends to be a team that's at the top of the throne, and people spend years trying to figure out how to dethrone them. But I will say that fatigue, I think, actually motivates players. This is going to sound backwards and weird, but I actually think that it motivates players coming out of high school to want to go to a different school to try and build that school into the next South Carolina. Like South Carolina wanted to be the next UConn. I think that that's what tends to happen.
Yeah, no, I completely agree, though. And they want to build what Dawn Staley was able to build there at South Carolina. But you got to give her a lot of credit because, you're looking at, when you're talking Nick Saban, when you're talking Coach K, Urban Meyers, like you could put Dawn Staley in that same realm, because I think the way she approaches coaching, the way she has been able to sustain, what are you laughing at?
I'm laughing because my cat, once again, has now jumped.
I had a feeling it was your cat. I was like,
the cat has now jumped and is actually leaning his little furry head over, trying to knock over not only my light, but also get into the camera. So if you're watching this, I'm sorry if I seem to get distracted, but okay, he's moved.
It's okay. We've had a lot of distractions during this podcast between Jake and your cat. But what was I saying? Oh, but I think there's just, she's in that same realm, and everybody's trying to figure out what is the secret to being able to sustain the type of success that she's been able to do. And there's a reason why, the players that have come out of that program and have had success at the next level, the list goes on and on. And she just seems like such a good person. Like,
loves her team. I will tell you a little story. I'll leave the coach unnamed, but it was one of the 3 head coaches I had in my 4 years. Okay. So if you guys want to hear about it, one time she told us after a loss, we were watching, no, it wasn't after a loss. We were watching, I think it was Geno Auriemma celebrate, or maybe it was Louisville's head coach at the time, celebrating with his team. And they looked so happy. And they were crying and they were hugging each other. And I remember all of my teammates and I kind of looking around at each other like, God, that must be nice, because our coach certainly doesn't treat us like that. There's no way she's jumping on me all excited and tearing up unless it's like fake. She comes into practice the next day or like a meeting and tells us all that that's fake. She was like, he's doing that for the cameras.
Is it though?
No.
Is it fake? Maybe it's fake to that coach because they never do it.
It's actually something that my mom and I talk about as a joke, and some of my teammates and I do also still currently. If we watch a big celebration with a coach and their player, we always go, but it's fake. Just completely rolling our eyes at that sentiment, because I just completely think that my coach was not right. I'll use nice language, not smart in that degree, but Dawn Staley proves that. You can feel the genuine feeling she has for her team. When the reporter's name is escaping me, but one of her former players is a reporter now, and she got to go interview Dawn Staley on the court, and she cried. She cried for her own coach as she's standing there interviewing her because she's so happy for her. That just shows that Dawn Staley is a respected coach. I'm sure she makes those girls mad. I'm sure she pisses them off at practice. I'm sure that there's times where they hate her, but she's so great to them, and it's all coming from a place of love that people love to play there. And I think it's great for women's basketball. She's a wonderful face for it all, and just a huge advocate, and I'm a huge fan.
Yeah, I completely agree. They might hate her sometimes, but they respect her, and it's hard to you have to earn respect in that way. Okay, well, I think we have real quick. You want to do celebrity sightings because we did
Yeah.
tease really
Let's
quick.
talk about
Okay,
the celebrity sightings.
so at Indian Wells, where you were, it sparked all sorts of debates on social media. You know what I'm talking about? 𝗻𝗄𝘃
Oh,
𝗟𝗡𝗵𝗍 and
goodness.
Kylie. Did she?
Yeah.
Okay, do you think he's the black cat and she's the golden retriever? Do you know the black cat golden retriever
I
thing?
have a black cat, so you're probably gonna have to
Oh,
teach me what
you
this
haven't
means.
heard of this? The whole
No.
theory? Okay, we have time. So,
Okay.
as your black cat just gets
As
up
my
here.
black cat just jumped up
So,
behind me.
they
Mhm.
say, women, you want to be the black cat where you are just very stoic, you're independent, you don't need, you're not needy, and you want your man to be the golden retriever where it's like they are, all about you and they have the energy, blah, blah, blah. So that's the black cat. So it's usually when the man is the black cat and the woman's the golden retriever, it doesn't work out. Have you
Interesting.
heard
It's an
this?
interesting thought process because whoever made that analogy doesn't have a black cat because this black cat needs attention at all times. But
You
I'm
need to
gonna go
look
with
this
your
up on
analogy
TikTok
because I
because
think it's very cute. So I'm gonna go with that analogy here. I
it's
do
all
think
over
you're right.
TikTok. You have to look
I
it up. But
I
anyways,
think I think you're right because yeah, she was like forcing him to kiss her. It was like the most strangest thing ever.
it was very weird. It was yeah, because I mean, I'm very happy for her because I think she's in a way better relationship than where she was at before. But yeah, it was a little needy. It was a little needy. Okay, let's
I don't
get
know, but do you think that he's hot?
do I think he's hot? Okay. So have you heard of have you heard of the
Is
hot
he a
ugly
rat
thing?
boy? Is he a rat boy or I'm off on that?
No, okay, so then like these like different stereotypes and these different terms. So you're calling him a rat boy. I
I
think
don't
I
know. Is
think
he?
no, I think what makes him good looking is the way he carries himself and the confidence that he has.
Hmm.
Because you don't see it.
I mean, Brooke, he's the size of my pinky finger. So, I mean, sure, you can carry yourself however you want to, but you try to carry me up the stairs and you're going to fall back down them.
He is I think if you were to ask me this like years ago, or like when he first got into the industry, I'm like, absolutely not. But then have you seen Dune? Like him and Dune, I was like,
No,
okay,
I need
Timothy,
to
I
watch it.
see it.
Okay. That is
I
what
don't know.
one of my, uh, what do you call them? Co-hosts,
Yeah.
coworker at Tennis Channel. Her name's Chanda Rubin. She made a comment about him looking great in Dune. Also, I haven't watched the movie. So can you tell me, is he walking around with his shirt off or he's just walking around with some confidence? I need to understand because I think
Not a
I've
shirt
been
off.
a Kardashian fan for so long that Kylie Jenner and them just don't, I think they're beautiful. They don't strike me as I'm dating 𝗻𝗄𝘃 𝗟𝗡𝗵𝗍, you know?
I think Kylie needed a rebrand. I think her brand was kind of taking a hit. And I think this has done wonders for her because talking about South Carolina fatigue, I think people had Kylie Jenner fatigue. I think people were over her posts. I think people were over her Kylie cosmetics. Nobody was buying it. She was trying all these different businesses. Not saying that she's with him for her brand, but I think it's done a lot for her because people are now seeing her in a completely different light. She's like super chic. Like she's wearing
She looks adorable.
yeah, you're seeing her at like you saw her at fashion shows before, but it's like even just the way she's dressing a little bit more covered up. Like she is going to
She's
Chanel.
maturing.
She's growing up. She's growing up in front of our very eyes. Who would have thunk it? No, but I think Timothy, like she's with an A-list actor, like an Oscar nominated actor now. And so I think it's good for both of them. But girl, just, make sure he wants to kiss you back in public. Is he a PDA guy? You got to figure that out.
Yeah, no kidding. But she did look really cute. And this is completely off topic, but I want to share my win of the day.
Okay.
So you know how we had Ashley Brewer on and she was talking about how Veronica Beard has these blazers and they're wonderful for on camera, but they're like $700.
Yes.
Okay, so that's all I want. I really wanted a 𝗻𝗀𝗃𝗃 beard blazer for my birthday. And God bless my aunts. Yes, everybody, I'll put it out there right now. I'm extremely spoiled. Okay, so my aunts gave me money that would go towards this investment of getting a 𝗻𝗀𝗃𝗃 beard blazer. So I went and bought one last week. And I was in between two sizes and I couldn't decide which one I really wanted. The point is coming, I promise. I bought it. Today, I'm on searching. My mom and I follow these consignment stores in the Newport Beach area. And on consignment was a 𝗻𝗀𝗃𝗃 beard blazer in the exact size that I just bought, in the exact condition, minus the tag on it, for half the price.
See,
So
that's when it's God's will.
I think God was telling me that I was going to have a really good day, So I scurried my little tail over to the consignment store and bought it for half off. And I cannot wait to return the full price item to 𝗻𝗀𝗃𝗃 beard, and also now have an extra $350 to spend on whatever I like. I feel like this is a win.
This is a huge win. You should have led with this. I would have been so excited.
Honestly, talking about Kylie Jenner and her fashion made me think of it. Was I going to share it on here? No, but I feel like it was a win, and all the girlies need to know, any place that you live in that has consignment stores, and if you think they don't have them, I guarantee you they do. I know, Brooke, you've gone to some in Arizona and you're finding some great quality pieces. Why do we need to buy these full price? Because it makes no sense to me. You can just find most of my purses. I'll say right now, I'm not gatekeeping. I'm getting them consignment.
No, honestly, I was just having this talk with my sister the other day. I think that like some of the high-end designer bags, the older ones, like, are better quality. I would rather buy them from consignment. So speaking of like those stores, my friend Kate, Kate, obviously, and Taylor McGregor, they went to this consignment store for designer bags. They got them like what the consignment store before the markup. So she got a Chanel bag for like $700. A real Chanel bag. Yeah.
Oh,
which is
my
only
gosh.
like 3,000. Anyways, it's like,
no,
it's insane.
I think that's crazy. This is also my favorite. This is probably my second favorite sport, is shopping for items for less than they're supposed to be full price. I can tell you another story that happened today. This is 2 wins in a row. So long story short, I'm supposed to sell one of my friends' bags. It's actually a guy. He bought a bag for a girl. Didn't work out. She never opened it. He needs to return it. He can't because it's like past the amount of days, but it's brand new, and it's a Saint Laurent, and it's in the box. So I'm like, I'll sell it for you. I'll figure this out. So I went to the Real. They quoted me, but you only make a percentage of what that's at. So they said they would quote it at like $1,200. So you'd probably make 900, 850, something like that once it's all said and done. You weren't making very much off of it.
Yeah.
And so I had one other place I was going to take it to. But then over the weekend, when I went to the outlet mall, that bag was there for $800. And I was like, no.
Oh, no.
He's at the outlet mall. He's not going to get his money back. So now I'm panicking, right? And this is a sport of mine, like I've said. So I went to Fashion File. Anybody's ever gone to Fashion File online, they now have an actual store in Newport Beach. And it just opened last week. And I went, and they're trying to get their inventory. They paid me $1,100 to buy it outright.
Dani, we're like on the same wavelength, because I was literally cruising that website all day yesterday because I had just found out about it. I had no idea that website existed. I'm like, where has this been my entire life?
Fashion File, 𝗵𝗍𝗋, tremendous stuff.
Insane. Yeah, I sent it to my sister. She's like, yeah, where have you been? I go, clearly under a rock. Like, so I was saving purses left and right. Now, I didn't buy any, but I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking about it.
Is Jake still in the kitchen? No. Hey, Jake. No, I'm just
kidding. My birthday is coming up in a couple months. No, I'm kidding. Seriously, it is. No, I am adding that to my list. I'm all about that. I am on it all the time. Real quick, wait, you had so many good fashion. Good for you. This has been like a good week. It's that birthday week. It's that birthday week juju. It's still like bleeding over. Real quick, because I want to give her a shout out, because we like love talking about her, talk about celebrity sightings. Before we go, 𝗻𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃, she announced that she's having a baby, and 𝗵𝗃 McCaffrey. So cute. First off, her post was stunning. She looked insane. And then the little video that they posted where they're like in the field and she cute little belly. I talk about goals. I want to look like that when I'm pregnant.
I'm sure you
if
will,
I get back
Brooke.
to today.
I have
No,
no
both
doubt
of
in my mind. But she looked beautiful, and they obviously have kept this a secret for quite a while because she's
Yeah.
very clearly showing. It's very exciting for them. I think she said new chapter or something like that in her first
Yeah.
post, and our motherhood unlocked. It was something like that, But either way, congratulations to 𝗻𝗶𝘀𝗶𝗹 and Christian McCaffrey because that's going to be a good looking kid.
I can only imagine. And the athleticism, and because she plays like so many different instruments. He comes from a line of professional athletes. Like
Mhm.
she's a model. They're both smart. It's gonna be a perfect kid. And I also like it too. She is very outspoken about her endometriosis. And so, I think it's just sending such a great message and just cool to see that they were able to have that success. So it was really cool.
It's very cool. And also, our very own friend of the podcast finally announced her pregnancy as well. Ashley Brewer announced her pregnancy over
No.
this week as well. So it's very exciting, very girly way to end this podcast. But look, we got to give shout outs to our girls because let's be honest, it's hard to have a career and a family, and the women that do it, it's very impressive.
No, for sure. For sure. Well, Dani, I always enjoy catching up with you. And guys, thank you so much for listening or watching. And we will talk to you next week. Have a good one.
See ya.